What's that? Blink and you missed it and you didn't see the Shining reference. Let's go, 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 go!
Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution the information you need to know so you can watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want. I'm Tom Merritt. Brian Brushwood, was that a red rum?
Yeah, dude, I cracked the code. I went back in time, and I think you got to see, man. This is where I peel back and I reveal my giant cork board with like thread lines connecting all the different Stephen King properties to The Shining, to 11/22/63, to The Stand, and all that stuff.
Wait, hold on. Take the next 6 weeks to get a job at a school and then finish telling me about it.
There you go. Hold on. Time out. You're giving up the best content from Spoiler in Time. We're going to save it for the after show, all right?
Yeah, let's bring in our guest, Christina Warren, senior tech correspondent at Mashable, joining us. Christina, it's great to have you.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
We are going to talk about all kinds of cool new streaming services, which is probably the last thing people want to hear about. But that's part of what we're going to talk about. Do we have too many of these things? TiVo's complaining about ad skipping, even though they enable ad skipping. Let's start off with our primary target. Flix Premiere is a new service. It's not a subscription service like Netflix. It's curated movies. So you're like, oh, it's like Vudu or iTunes. Well, not exactly. What they do is they acquire exclusive rights, least exclusive on the platform, being the internet, to good indie films that haven't found an audience. Now, they like to find things that are fairly new, but they will find things that have been out for 2 or 3 years, maybe even older if they're good enough. Then they are taking the approach of a film distributor, and they are promoting them online. They are doing trailers. They are doing interviews. So they've got junkets for the movies, behind the scenes stuff. And then they have a release date. 8 new movies come to your couch each week. If you're a Flix Premiere customer, you pay a couple bucks for a ticket. You sit down, you watch it. You can also see what was playing in previous weeks, and they have a 12-month exclusive, so you can go back. But the idea, Brian, is to really treat this like a theater experience.
This is really exciting for me. Now, we've talked before how I feel like we're getting very, very crowded in this space. We talked about service fatigue. We talked about, everybody just like, oh, I don't want to sign up for another thing. What I love about this is, number one, if you want to survive in a crowded marketplace, what you do is you find some of that rare gold, that unexplored territory, that unclaimed turf, and you figure out a way to virtualize something that already exists in the world. The movie theater down the street that's curated, that's got your movie buff, that loves this kind of stuff, that brings independent movies, that is something that nobody's really cracked in this space. And the fact that they're going for a less is more thing, they're not trying to be an all-you-can-eat buffet. They're saying, hey, you're going to learn to trust us. We're going to ask for a couple bucks here and there to show you movies that we know that we think are really, really good, and you're going to fall in love with it. I think is a brilliant, brilliant way to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a good idea, assuming the content is good. I think this is the sort of service that's going to absolutely live and die based on its content. Because if these are films that you have to ask the question, why were these films unable to find an audience? Now, that could be a lot of reasons. It could be they didn't have the budget for marketing or promotion. It could be the subject matter maybe just isn't broad enough. It could be the time of year it was released. It could be a lot of things. But I think that this only works if you can convince people that these are movies worth checking out. And so I think that's why it's interesting that they're doing junkets, they're doing trailers, they're trying to promote it. But to me, like if I'm looking at this, if I'm an indie, movie creator, I'm a little bit nervous because they're asking for a 12-month exclusive on films, which on the one hand is great for the user because you can go back and see their catalog. But if you're the filmmaker, that means that I can't be on Netflix or iTunes or, any of these other services that might have more viewers in 12 months. So, I'm stuck on this place for 12 months. So I don't know. To me, this is a good idea, but it only works if the movies are actually worth watching.
Yeah, there's a thin Venn diagram crossover where this can work. It's you have to, there's plenty of movies out there that can't get distribution, right? So there's no problem there, but they have to be good, like Christina said. So are the good ones able to forego or not get the deals with an Amazon, Netflix, et cetera? Or can Flix Premiere make a better deal and say, no, we'll bring you in more money in this 12-month exclusive period? And can Flix get enough of those convinced to provide a quality offering? Because like Brian said, I love this idea. I remember when I was in college, I would always go to the New Art Theater in Champaign, Illinois, because they always had the best new indie film out. That's where I saw Reservoir Dogs. That's where I saw Glengarry Glen Ross. Like, this place was impeccable in picking movies. And if Flix Premiere can pull that off, I would love that experience.
See, this is interesting because both of you guys, your first response is like, this is a difficult game to play and they have to perform very, very well for this to work because you're right. There is going to be pressure from the audience and pressure from the content creators, and you have to please both of them if you're going to make this work. I guess I'm just thrilled because I don't think I've seen anyone play this game before. They are on the outset saying, we're going to do it this way and we're going to eschew all the common wisdom that says big deals, mass studios, big catalogs, all you can eat. The fact that they're saying no to all of that is what really impresses me. Now, having said that, you're 100% right. If they don't perform, if they don't get the deals, if they give us a bunch of shovelware, then we're going to be pretty upset by it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that again is like my biggest concern, right? Is that are these movies that to Tom's point, like that they couldn't get distribution because they weren't good enough, or are these films that really do deserve a chance? And unfortunately, like if you've been around like the indie film movement long enough, like that there's a lot of great stuff and there's a lot of stuff that's just like not so great. And a lot of times you see services that look like this that aren't exactly this way, but you see these kind of indie film services crop up, and you're like, oh, okay, this would have been straight to video like in the Blockbuster aisle, 15 years ago. Is this something I actually want to pay $3 to watch? I don't know.
Because they have to get people in the door, so people have to find out about it and be willing to try it. And maybe that's a trailer they see, or something. Then they've got to keep them. So they got to show them trailers for other good movies, and then people have to keep enjoying the movies. So, but a cool idea if they can do it.
Here's a question for you guys. If you're running Flix, do you do what is ubiquitous on all other platforms? Do you put a rating structure in there? Because essentially a poor rating is not just a judgment on the movie, it's a judgment of your curation of this movie.
You mean like a Rotten Tomatoes rating kind of thing?
Well, or I don't know, like ask the people who just watched the movie, what did you think of this movie and so on.
Like a user rating. Gotcha.
Yeah. Because essentially it's a condemnation. It looks like we're seeing 5 stars, 4 stars here. But what happens, I mean, it's an indictment of the service when they bring crap to you, not of the movie itself.
Yeah, but I think you have to have a rating. I mean, you're right. You risk it being an indictment of the service, but I think you have to have a rating, especially if the only thing people are going to watch on is, you might be able to count on like assorted like online reviews, although I seriously doubt it, would be, what people are saying. And so you have to, I guess, hope that you're buying good enough stuff that the ratings will be decent. But I think that you have to have that. I think as a user, if all I'm going on is a trailer, I would like to see, even if it doesn't mean anything, even if I disagree, I'd like to see, a cumulative rating from other people who've watched it.
That's what the head of Flix Premiere told his curation team when they asked, well, what if it gets low ratings? He said, just don't get movies that'll get low ratings. It's your job.
Oh, wow. Snap. That's heavy duty.
This is coming to iOS and Android. More platforms to follow after that. It is available for testing right now, kind of intermittently in the US and UK, and then it's going to launch at the end of May after the Cannes Film Festival. I assume they're going to do a big promotion push there. That's probably why the timing. And after launch, they'll expand to Australia, Canada, France, Germany, and Spain. We're available in all countries, Brian.
Yeah.
Maybe China blocks us. I don't know.
Can I tell you a little story, a little Greek myth about a man named Sisyphus? It's a man who created a podcast, and all he wanted was to get up to 2,000 patrons. And he would get almost up there, and then the first of the month would roll around, and then there'd be the churn, which always happens. You always lose a few people every single month. And even though he got like only 38 patrons away, all of a sudden he slid back to 1,920 patrons, even though he co-hosted Sisyphus, this fictional story. It's not me. Stop saying it's me. Hosted this incredible podcast giving you the news about watching what you want, when you want, on whatever damn device you please.
Schwidifus.
Yes, Schwidifus. I would imagine this hypothetical being...
Were there crows pecking at his eyes and didn't he turn into stone?
Yes, all of
maybe
those
I'm mixing my myths.
Look, man, why don't you, just for one day, make Sisyphus happy? Why don't you become a patron? Head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers and throw us. If you think the show's worth $1, then we'd love to have that $1. It's really 50 cents if you split it into Spoiler in Time and Cordkillers.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, think of what you can buy for 50 cents today. Would you like a ball of sticky gum that will lose its flavor after one chew, or this episode?
Which won't even have flavor to begin with. None of that false advertising about flavor here. Brian. All right, I'd say we move on to Signals Intelligence.
Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's go to Signals Intelligence. Please hold your groans and sighs about more streaming services to the end of the announcements. Full Screen, which has such stars as Grace Helbig and Hannah Hart, etc., is going to start a streaming service. It will have a free 30-day trial starting April 26th, available for iOS, Android, and Chromecast. So originals from all the Full Screen stars, which you only care about if you're a fan of the Full Screen stars. And they'll also have some curated acquisitions. They got some rights to stream some shows like Dawson's Creek, Saved by the Bell, etc. Electro Woman and Dyna Girl will be one of their big hit shows with Grace and Hannah, and that comes on June 7th. And then Lionsgate, we've told you about the Comic-Con channel before. They're going to be partnering with Kevin Hart's Heartbeat Digital to launch a comedy streaming channel called Laugh Out Loud. One of the shows will have Hart starring as an undercover driver for Lyft. Another show has Vine star Logan Paul. And then also from Lionsgate, Tribeca Shortlist, the streaming movie service, which has already launched, is now available on the Apple TV, in addition to the Roku, Fire TV, and iOS, for $4.99 a month. Smaller catalog of movies handpicked by actors, filmmakers, and other industry insiders. Sort of a half step up from Flick's premiere, actually. These are movies that have gotten distribution and have been shown in theaters successfully and are now hitting the streaming platform. Brian, how many more of these can we take?
I mean, look, the only way you find out how many the market can bear is by trying to saturate the market. And I think we're very close to that point at this point. Of these, I do think that Full Screen is the most interesting because they're leaning heavily on their originals. They did pad their catalog with a bunch of, cheap old stuff, which is fine. But what is interesting to me is that Full Screen is targeting a very specific demographic, very, very young people who are very, very passionate. The good news is, of all the demographics, those are the most malleable. If you're going to get people to give up their ways of being in one ecosystem to follow you to another, those are going to be the ones that do it. But they're also the ones least comfortable or the least accustomed to paying for their content. They're the ones who are accustomed to watching everything for free. What do you think trumps in this case, Christina?
I mean, I think that it really... Getting anybody to pay for anything is tough, but I think if you can come up with good original content and be the exclusive place to find stuff, you might be able to convince, some of these kids to convince their parents to prop up for this sort of subscription. What's interesting to me is obviously they're going head to head against YouTube Red, right? Which for a lot of the Full Screen, people on their roster, they get all their views from YouTube. So this is becoming a really interesting thing where they're basically going to have to make a choice. Do I do exclusive content for YouTube Red or do I do it for Full Screen?
Yeah, I got to admit, I totally was surprised. I guess I just assumed that Electro Woman and Dyna Girl was going to be a YouTube Red joint. I was really surprised to find out that, as far as we know, this is where it's going to premiere and live. Right,
which I think is if you're YouTube, you've got to be a little bit scared, right? Because the whole point of Red, other than the ad-free thing, which for a lot of people is why they're going to buy that, right? That's the big real incentive of YouTube Red is that it's ad free. I think that the original content is kind of an ancillary thing. I don't know how many people are actually going to subscribe to that for the original content. And that value proposition is even weakened now, right? If all of your big stars, some of your biggest names are going to have their own service that'll also have catalog titles, but decent catalog titles, and titles that might not be exclusive to them, but that they've still got, which fit with that demographic. So if anybody can do this, if anybody can go up against the kind of the YouTube juggernaut in this way, I think it's probably Full Screen. But I think you're right. It's really going to be hard to convince an entire generation of users that literally have never understood what it's like to pay for content that I'm going to have to pay for content now.
I think one of the cool things about this is that you are seeing what Full Screen has learned from Vessel. Vessel tried to take YouTube shows, put them behind a paywall, and that has not seemed to work very well for them. What Full Screen is saying is, okay, there may be some confusion about the fact that Grace Helbig is doing a show and why isn't it on YouTube, but it's not like we're taking It's Grace, her YouTube show, and trying to put it on Full Screen. That would be a mistake. It's similar to any star out there saying, well, I have a show on this network, but I also have a show on this network, right? Ryan Seacrest is all over the place, too many places, some people say. But he's not tied down to one place. So I think that's a really interesting part of this too.
Real quick, for those of you guys who have your bingo cards out, you could check off Tom's wife works at YouTube. You could check out Brian Brushwood does Scam School for YouTube, and Scam School is currently on Vessel.com. Tom, what you drinking there, buddy?
Oh, it's just a sip of coffee out of my wife works from YouTube. Back to the other question here, though. I think sometimes we all think we have to subscribe to all the services, right?
Right.
Because it's like, oh, well, Netflix and Hulu, that gets me everything. Oh, wait, now there's Amazon. Okay, well, then that gets me everything. Oh, wait, now there's HBO Now. We don't. The promise of this was, unlike cable, you don't have to subscribe to all 200 channels. Is it wrong to think there could be 200 streaming services and we just don't all have to subscribe to all of them?
I mean, I think the problem, though, is that we kind of anticipated that you would be able to kind of pick and choose exactly what content you would want. And instead, it's like you find out a show I really love is on this service and it's only here. And a show I also really love is on this one. And if I want to get access to everything, I've got to subscribe to everything, which, if you think about it, isn't really any different than paying $200 a month for your cable and internet bundle where you get all your channels. You know?
So let's say this, the part that is frustrating to us, because you make a good point, like if what we want is access to everything, then what we're describing is traditional cable. But we also don't want to be paying for stuff that we don't need or that we're not using or whatever. I gotta feel we're within a year from a prototype of some, and I've predicted this or begged for it for years, some kind of AI concierge service, the Jarvis of television that says, hey, I've been watching what you've been watching. Here are the things you love. Did you know that Game of Thrones is premiering this weekend? Would you like me to restart your HBO account? It'll be this much. Here's how much you're paying per month on average. I could shut down your FX Prime offline sub red turbo account to make up for it in the budget. And it's like, once we no longer have to be hands-on with that stuff, as long as we don't have to remember the passwords, I think we're going to be a lot more permissive to everybody. Complete balkanization of content on the internet would be fine with us.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that's the big challenge, though, right? Is that you've got to kind of pay attention. When is this coming here? And there are and it hurts, when companies like Netflix shut off their APIs that make it easy to find out what's leaving and what's coming. So it's hard to even monitor that stuff. There are apps that have tried to do it. Yahoo actually had a pretty decent kind of like guide for that sort of stuff. But unless you keep on top of it, you're right. It's like super difficult to even know where can I find this show? And we've been promised for years that there would be this sort of, recommendation thing coming that would let you know across all these services. And that hasn't happened yet. But I hope you're right. I hope we see that, because that would certainly make it easier for me. Because right now I'm one of those people who I subscribe to almost everything. And it's stupid because I don't use it. But I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, but what if I want to watch this show this one time? In reality, I should probably just, also rationalize the fact that I probably have a lot of content that I've obtained other places and just get rid of the subscription, Christina. But, you are always worried, well, what if this comes back, or what if the only way I can watch this show is on this network?
That's interesting. I haven't thought about this for a while, but because, there are now so many legal alternatives for stuff. I forgot that during the time back when I used to pirate material, I would use subscription. I would use the fact that I had cable as some kind of psychological salve to make me, to absolve myself of the sins I was doing. I hadn't even considered that vector.
Yeah, I think that this idea of a machine intelligence that can do things for you is the right way to go. I'm thinking of the guy who created a bot that will log your complaint against a parking ticket by just running you through a questionnaire. It's in the UK, and then it will file the paperwork to contest a parking ticket for you. And it works a large percentage of the time. If there was some kind of bot where you can just say, these are the shows I want to follow, and then it will go and activate subscriptions and deactivate subscriptions, and just tell you oh, you need to launch this app when you're wanting to watch it. That would be amazing. It's totally doable.
I'll tell you what, in the next 5 years, I mean, I think you're going to see you're going to see lawyer bots, you're going to see information concierge bots, you're going to see personal assistant bots. I mean, we call Siri a personal assistant, but we're going to say, hey, I want to go out to eat, find me a good dinner, and just trust that it's going to find a 4-star Yelp related thing. Make a reservation, book the thing, get the Uber, and just tell you to pick, show up at 6 o'clock, and it's got the rest of the evening handled.
Absolutely. All right, let's gear up, because we're going to need some gear to run all this stuff on.
Yeah.
That's what this segment's about. That's what we call it, gear up. So TiVo put out a little blog post claiming that the networks, although they won't say which networks because they don't want to totally ruin their relationship with them, won't take ads for the new TiVo Bolt DVR because of skip mode. Skip mode is enabled on several channels that you can get through TiVo, some broadcast channels, some cable channels. And what it does is magic. I have it on my over-the-air Romeo now, and you just press the green button and it goes immediately from where you are to the beginning of the next segment after the commercial break. So obviously, a lot of broadcast networks might not like that. And they will not allow TiVo to give them money to spend an ad. So networks won't take ads from TiVo because TiVo has a feature that they fear will cause people not to want to buy ads from them, Brian.
Well, and then this is the point when TiVo takes to the streets with giant signs that says, "We demand the right to have our ads skipped," just like all the other ads on your network, right? I always misuse the word irony, but this is irony, right?
This is totally ironic. It's also really funny that like this is happening now. Like, okay, TiVo, you're really fighting this fight now. Like you had, I mean, the original proposition of TiVo was, like the 15, 30-second skip button, right? Like they went through, like we've seen like from the replay TV era to, the hopper, like we've seen this so many times. So I can't help but laugh a little bit that like TiVo, who right now their entire existence is built upon basically becoming replacement cable boxes for MVPDs, is like complaining that they can't advertise.
Well, and plus, I mean, that's a really good point because this has to be a 20-year ongoing battle for these guys at this point, right? I mean, do they got another 20 years left in them? I don't know.
Well, yeah, the 15-second skip button was a huge deal for them, and they hid it. Right? Yeah. They changed the default behavior on the remote, and then you had to do this up, down, left, right thing.
Yeah, totally.
I remember I could still hear the boom, boom, boom. That meant I had successfully programmed it. And now they're like, oh, now that everyone's streaming, we'll fight this battle for you. And yet, I think the most surprising thing is that the networks wouldn't take an ad. Like, why wouldn't they?
I agree. I mean, I guess mainly, first of all, it's like, maybe the reason is because to take money from TiVo, somebody who's actively working to undermine their business model would appear as they're sanctioning it or giving up or whatever. And plus also, maybe what does that say about the cable companies? Maybe that they're doing well enough that they can afford to turn down ad money for PR benefits in order to make their stuff look good. So maybe they're doing healthier than we would like to think. What I'd like to imagine, because notice they didn't tell us what ad it is, I'd love to imagine that the ad is just 3 minutes of a screaming baby with text saying, "Get TiVo," and you can skip this.
That would be great. You have to wonder too, since they won't say anything about the ad, if the ad is strictly about that feature, and if they would be able to advertise the device itself maybe without focusing on that feature. And since they won't say who the network is, you have to wonder, is this the network that is still involved in the lawsuit against Dish with the Hopper, which I think right now it's only NBC Universal who's left in that lawsuit. So if that's the case, you kind of understand why NBC Universal would be like, okay, well, we're not going to run this ad because they're still embroiled in a lawsuit with another company who was basically doing the same thing. It would look pretty bad if they then said, well, no, we're taking ads for this similar service.
Although I would imagine, wouldn't they just run the ad on other networks if the other networks would let them pay for it? Like I'm kind of leaning towards believing that it's all three broadcast networks, or 4 broadcast networks. So all 3 broadcast networks. How old am I?
What was it, 1987? Oh my gosh, we get a 4th network. Here we go.
I did see a Bolt ad on a streaming thing on my Apple TV. I can't remember if it was for FX Now or it was Comedy Central. I can't remember, but I remember I did see a Bolt ad at least on the online stream of one of the cable channels.
And did it mention the 30-second skip? I'm just curious if you remember.
I don't recall. I just remember being like, oh, TiVo still has money for ads. Like, genuinely, that was my response. Like, that was
well, they take all that patent money, that patent licensing, and then they put it into advertising. Well, let's take a quick break and let you know of a project that I've got going on that I would like your attention to if you're interested in science fiction books. I've written a book called Pilot X. It's about a time traveler trying to prevent a time war and being faced with perhaps betraying his own people. It is available at inkshares.com. And the deal with Inkshares is that you get people to pre-order it and then they publish it. So it's a real honest-to-goodness publisher, but you just have to show enough people are interested in the book and then they'll publish it. So it's more than a vanity press. It's more than self-publishing, and it is open to people to be on the platform based on how much demand they have. So if that book sounds at all interesting to you, and you were willing to plunk down a little bit of money for a pre-order, head to inkshares.com and search for Pilot X and plop down a pre-order. I sure would appreciate it.
Heck yeah, man. That's awesome.
Shall we move on to the front lines?
No. Wait, yes.
Wait,
Front lines.
Sony's 4K streaming service is launching today, April 4th in the United States. Ultra, it's not really a streaming service. It's more of a store exclusively on the Sony HDR 4K sets. Titles cost around $30 each. You get 4 free titles when you sign up. And it's part of Ultraviolet for that far-off day when there are multiple 4K stores and you can watch it through whichever service you want.
All right, by the way, for the record, we've talked all this whole episode about fatigue and the right way and the wrong way to introduce yet another online marketplace. I think this is very much the right way because they are speaking to a very specific demographic, people who just bought a brand new 60-inch HDR 4K thing and they want content that's going to show off what that thing does. This is a smart play.
It's a smart play, but it's way too much money. I mean, you're talking $30 a title. What year is this? Like, genuinely, you think that, I mean, it's bad enough that we're still seeing upcharges for HD content in 2016 when, like, are you serious? But, like, to charge a $10 premium for 4K, I think is excessive, even assuming that most people who are buying these Sony TVs have spent considerable amounts of money on it. So I have to wonder how many people are even going to be buying this stuff. And Ultraviolet, I mean, that's great that you can then potentially watch it on other devices, but are they going to do the typical Ultraviolet thing where when you watch it on another device, guess what? It's not HD. It's not 4K. It's only going to be the lesser quality SD stuff because that's how their thing worked. I don't know.
Ultraviolet is very simple, Christina. If you have the right device with the right service at the right time. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And that is a pretty hefty early adopter tax.
Yeah, but if I don't know, you're spending that kind of money for that kind of screen, I think you're going to want to show it off for that. Hey, Bloomberg says the rumors of Facebook discussing purchasing rights to stream NFL games are rumored to have ended. The NFL is still talking to Verizon and others. That's a real bummer for me because I really felt like that was the most out-of-the-box solution that would allow Facebook's to leverage a unique experience. And I don't know, if it makes sense for Facebook to get into the VR game, why wouldn't it make sense for them to get into the live interactive streaming, watching football with your friends game? But
too rich for Facebook's blood.
Yeah, man. What does that tell you?
Well, apparently they wanted to not run ads. Is what the report was kind of implying, is that Facebook was wanting to make it ad free, which is really interesting, right? So, and the NFL is like, oh, no. I mean, and I assume that they said, well, the only way we would do that is if you would pay us an exorbitant amount of money, which then Facebook's like, nah, that's okay.
Well, and think about it. I could picture a world where just for the demographic, because Facebook is really in the analytics business, right? I mean, imagine the value of watching the entire country watch an NFL game at the same time, seeing who talks to who about what, with what keywords and what do they pay attention to, and in game sponsorships and stuff. I think that almost would have been a really, really good play.
Although
Totally.
This is the kind of situation where the fallout of not having this deal could be something similar to that happens for all NFL games because they just partner up.
Interesting. Yeah.
I mean, there already is a Facebook NFL partnership that's similar to that they might flesh out because of this.
Yeah. No, maybe it's a case where there's the pressure gets released through another part of the pipe system. I know plumbing.
Yeah. There was a good plumber recommended on Nextdoor for my neighborhood today, in case anyone's interested. Just let me know. Good news for UK viewers of Channel 4. You can now watch the live feed of the channel on Android devices. Bad news, UK viewers of Channel 4. Black Mirror will not come to Channel 4 next season. But good news, UK viewers of Netflix. Black Mirror will come to Netflix in the UK and everywhere else in the world. So Netflix outbid the launching home of Black Mirror.
Okay, we have seen, this is amazing. Look at the evolution of this kind of story. If we told this story 5 years ago, it would have been Black Mirror has been canceled. Oh, right. Netflix has saved it. Now we're telling the reverse story. Like, Black Mirror's really made it. They're ditching that crappy old television station and going on Netflix. That is phenomenal.
Yeah, you're dead on. This is great. It's great news for Black Mirror, but it also just really shows the power of Netflix and the fact that a lot of creators would rather be on Netflix than on traditional television, which is huge.
Yeah.
Well, and Channel 4's statements to the press about this were very snippy about, being betrayed, and they took a chance on Black Mirror, and this is ungrateful. Those aren't direct quotes, but that was kind of the gist of it, is that Black Mirror turned against them when the only reason Black Mirror exists is because of Channel 4. And I'm like, that's the new world where the content creators have a lot more power than they used to be. They don't have to stay in the gated community.
I'll tell you who benefits from this example, from this story, is all the new content creators.
Totally.
As somebody who has created content and that other people own, it's like, I know it's like the next thing I create, it'd be great to know that they know that I know that, who knows where it might end up, bro. Just saying.
No,
Yeah.
totally. I mean, I think that this is creators should be taking advantage of this Netflix influx of cast as long as it lasts. The pessimist in me is always kind of like waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, how long is Netflix going to continue to spend this freely? But right now, there's a ton of good content out there, and frankly, the good content creators, the Black Mirrors of the world, they have their pick. And if Netflix is going to offer them a better deal, what's really interesting about this is that they are not only going to be able to make the argument, well, we'll be able to give you more money, but we're going to be able to give you more exposure too, because the reality is that they can probably get just as many viewers, especially if you're talking about licensing in other markets where maybe Channel 4 hasn't done that, or the production company that also owns the show hasn't done. They can be in more places too.
Absolutely. And whoa, I accidentally hit the button that turns off the lights. So now
Some dramatic
I got
lighting
so
for this next
excited
week.
I
If you're
turned
not
off
on the
the
audio
lights.
podcast, please enjoy.
Hey man, Jill Soloway says told the Associated Press that Caitlyn Jenner will appear in season 3 of Amazon's Transparent, and at this moment, Brian remembers that he completely didn't finish season 2, and I feel terrible. It's the best show. It is so freaking good, and it's a testament to, like we were just talking about, the power of these independent online over the top networks.
And I think that the other part of that is you don't have to feel bad because you didn't miss it. It's not like it's in reruns all summer and you rewatch, you go watch it whenever you want. I mean, that's what Netflix is doing too. Their gamble is, since we couldn't get the top content from the broadcasters, we'll make it ourselves and eventually have such a big catalog that people will come to Netflix for all the Netflix shows that they've missed out on and haven't seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, and I think this is great for the show to be able to have someone who's so kind of part of that world that they're representing on the show, and it kind of shows, I think, the power of Transparent, and it's a great television show that they can bring more people in that way.
Yeah, it's certainly an amazing show, and I can't wait to see how they work this in. I guess this will be the first big celebrity appearance in this series.
Yeah,
though.
which you're right. I think it will be, and that'll be interesting, right, to see how they're able to kind of make that work and kind of blend those two worlds together. I think that'll be interesting. Which
leads us nicely into what's under surveillance.
Not like real estate. It's all about location. Under surveillance.
A few stories before we get into what we've been watching. Science Channel will air a reality series called Search for the Next Mythbusters in order to find new hosts for a new version of the series. Now, they are not committing to a new series or committing to the winners of this reality show becoming the hosts of any potential new series, but they are going to do the reality show with that as the premise.
I think this is an okay smart play. I guess I'm just a bit surprised by it because the refractory period was all of 20 minutes since the show ended, and they're already squeezing something to get out of his corpse.
We got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah,
Brian.
no, fair enough.
But you strike all the irons hot, but at the same time you wonder, like, this almost makes it seem like the whole reason they didn't continue on with the other hosts is they didn't want to pay whatever their contract fees was, and this is just a way to continue the show with cheaper people, and then you have kind of a cheap competition ploy. I don't know. I'm never a fan of these sorts of like find the new host of whatever thing. I mean, Project Greenlight notwithstanding, all iterations of that show, even the Bravo one I was a fan of. I typically I don't feel like you often get good results from these sorts of things.
Full disclosure, if you haven't seen it yet, check out The Modern Rogue on the Scam Skull channel. Some people have compared me and Jason Murphy to, never mind.
Strike while the corpse is hot.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Will Smith, formerly of Tested, left Tested, and everybody's like, what's he going to do now? Well, we know he's going to host a talk show filmed in virtual reality called The Foo Show. The first episode, currently in early access on Oculus Home, features Firewatch developer Campo Santo and Smith exploring a location from the game. Regular production starts this summer.
Very, very cool. It's funny because I've always seen Will Smith's name. I've never met him, but I've been familiar with his work all the way back when he was working for Maximum PC. So to see him go on to graduate is really exciting.
Now, you threw this next one in here, which is good news, that Always Sunny in Philadelphia has been renewed on FXX for its 13th and 14th seasons, but then you put it ties Ozzy and Harriet as the longest running series. Simpsons has been running longer than that.
I believe they always have specific
action,
categories for that stuff. Yeah, live action comedy series or sitcom.
Longest
whatever the
running
distinction
live
is.
Action.
Yeah, it says it will tie The Adventures of Ozzy and Harriet as the longest running live action comedy in TV history, which is crazy for a bunch of
live action comedy series.
Yeah,
that premiered on network.
And Always Sunny in Philadelphia has shorter seasons than Ozzy and Harriet did, so we'll put an asterisk next to their record.
Yeah, that's true, because Ozzy and Harriet, that was in the early ages of TV, where, you know, a lot of those shows didn't even survive because they didn't go to tape for the first few years.
Hold on real quick. I believe we could put another asterisk because Ozzy and Harriet never showed a bare-chested man in a depiction of God.
Second asterisk.
In it. So this is definitely the first in that category.
Yes, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, congratulations, Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So we always take a little bit of time in the show to talk about what we've been watching on the services that we like to subscribe to and or cancel. Christina, what have you been watching these days?
Okay, so The Americans just came back. And speaking of FX related shows, so The Americans came back. I love The Americans. I'm obsessed with it. Also, The People versus O.J. Simpson. I have to say, have you guys been watching that? Because it's like
no, but
I have not. But I've heard nothing but good
my
things.
co-host Justin Robert Young is utterly enthralled with it. It's like there's moments he says that it's utterly brilliant, and other times it's the cheesiest melodrama you've ever seen.
Completely. I mean, like Cuba's not good, right? Like I'm gonna be honest, he's not great as OJ. But what's fascinating is he doesn't have to be, because just like with the real trial, it's really not about OJ at all. It's about all these other players. Courtney B. Vance is amazing. The actor who plays Chris Darden is fantastic. The finale airs tomorrow night, and I will be watching. And no, I mean, it's been such a surprise to me how good the show is, because I was afraid that Ryan Murphy would, like Ryan Murphy it. I've also the OC just came to Hulu, and it was on CWC before, but they don't have an Apple TV app, and that's annoying to then like AirPlay it to my Apple TV, and I don't often want to use my Fire TV because I like my Apple TV better. So I spent a lot of the weekend rewatching season 1 of the OC, and I'm not ashamed at all.
It's very brave of you. Very, very courageous.
Watch what you want is part of our slogan. What you want to watch. There's no judgment there. And as far as The Americans go, interesting thing that happened with myself and my wife, we were watching it on FX and we enjoyed it. And even before we canceled DirecTV, we just kind of kept falling behind until it showed up on I think it was
Amazon?
Netflix.
It's on Amazon.
Or on Amazon, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we just started watching it on Amazon kind of naturally. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was just we were in Amazon for something else and we're like, oh, right, we're behind on The Americans. I guess we can just watch it here and not have to fast forward through commercials. And so that's how we're behind, but we're so slow going on it. Even
you're
though
okay.
It's a great
yeah,
show.
Season 3 is now on Amazon, so you'll be able to catch up. And like, I mean, and that it's one of those shows that even if like you feel like you can't wait any longer at the season 3 finale, you can always buy the episode by episode.
And that's what I do with most sci-fi stuff now, is I just buy it and watch it the next day. Brian, what have you been watching?
The Usual Suspects, man. I got Better Call Saul, Justified, and 11/22/63. Watched all of those last night. The rest of my entire week has been spent playing Fallout 4, getting it working again. I never finished it the first time, so I'm having a blast with it.
So you've been watching Fallout 4 as well?
Little bit.
Yeah, no worries. Same as you. I've been watching Better Call Saul, Justified, 11/22/63. A couple other things to mention. The Magicians, I think, is really picking up steam. It had some good episodes and bad episodes in the early going. It had some rocky parts, but I think it's doing really well now. So I highly recommend that. Supergirl, I know we mentioned it when Lamar was on, is still really fun to watch. The Walking Dead finale really pissed off some people. It's kind of spoilery to say why, but I personally am fine with the way it ended, and I'm looking forward to the next season, which is only 6 months away.
Tom, may I take a guess? Either somebody died or somebody didn't die. Is that what happened?
Yes, you are correct.
Nailed it.
That is right at the heart of the matter. And then The Force Awakens came out on digital, so I watched a bunch of those digital extras that came with the purchase of the digital version.
Were they good?
Really good stuff. The deleted scenes were a little sparser than I expected, but there was interesting things in there. But the main documentary that they did about what went into the making of it, showed like video and audio of the first table read that they did, which I found fascinating. It had lots of substantive interviews with people about how they did stuff. Really good stuff.
Man, they had to know, like, given the fact that it's like the Dead Sea Scrolls every time we find 3 frames of 35mm footage from the first movie, they're like, just shoot everything. Shoot the first bathroom break. It'll be great. Someday it'll be really valuable.
Yeah. You can't overshoot behind the scenes. The funniest thing was some of the interviews with the actors. They did outtakes of all of them saying, "Can I talk about that?" because it was done at a time when there was so much secrecy that they had just forgotten like when and where they could say.
They're like, no, this is the future. This is after it's already come out. Talk about everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Bryce, what have you been on the lookout for?
Hey, we got a new recommendation from Nick. He sent along the USA show Graceland. This follows FBI rookie Mike Warren, who was unexpectedly thrown into Graceland, a undisclosed location in California that is a live-in headquarters for FBI, DEA, and U.S. Customs agents. He's a new rookie recruit straight out of Quantico, and he's trying to fit in with all of these like surfer federal agents.
We're seeing some video right now. Is that Jay Carnes? That looks like Jay Carnes from The Shield that we just saw briefly.
I'm not sure.
I'll wager it was.
This is a USA show, so if you like a Suits type of thing, a Royal Pains sort of thing, I actually got a lot of like In Plain Sight vibes from this. The show about witness protection. And it's interesting. It's in its wheelhouse of like a genre about shows that are real police departments that are just slightly turned up fictionalizations, though supposedly this is based off of a real location. So season 1 and 2 are available on Netflix streaming. The last season 3, should be out soon, but it got canceled. So I don't know if it ended on a good note or not, but you should see that soon.
I watched the first season. It was okay.
You did? Yeah?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, like you said, the Suits comparison to Zapsa was the In Plain Sight. Like they had good looking people. Aaron Tveit, the guy from the Grease live musical, is Mike Warren, and he's good.
Yeah, and the first episode is really good. The first episode is like one of those long, like entire hour long ones. And there's a nice little twist at the very last minute, I think. So check that out. That's Graceland.
Got something we should be on the lookout for? Email us. Let Bryce know. Cordkillers@gmail.com. And we finish with dispatches from the front.
Man, lots of good emails this go around, Tom.
Gabriel has one of those good emails. We were talking about Redbox creating a digital rental service and speculating whether they would be able to maintain a price advantage over places like iTunes and Amazon. It made Gabriel wonder if either of us had heard or used the service VidAngel at vidangel.com. He says they have an interesting purchase and return loophole scheme going on that allows you to rent movies digitally for $1 to $2. Pretty wild, but as far as I could tell, completely legitimate. I've heard them advertise on nationally syndicated radio shows, so I don't think they're trying to fly under the radar. They're also interesting because they support filtering objectionable content in the video for families, and they rent some HBO and Netflix shows as well, Game of Thrones, House of Cards, etc. They even have filters for Jar Jar Binks scenes and new edits in Star Wars, so they have a sense of humor about it, and they have apps on all the devices you'd normally use. If you haven't checked them out, you might want to. Gabriel writing us about VidAngel. I'm just saying, little connection there possibly. But also, we have talked about VidAngel before, and the fact that they do a system where you buy the DVD from them, then they stream it to you, and then you sell it back to them. So you're buying it for $20, and then you sell it back for less than $20, and that's the $1 to $2 fee that he's talking about there. I keep waiting for a lawsuit to be filed against them because there have been, judges who don't think streaming a copy of something remotely, even if you own it, is okay. But I think they're relying on the DVR judgments, which have said, yes, it's okay for Cablevision to have the DVR located remotely and stream it to somebody. So that may be why they haven't been challenged.
Well, and this is also wrapped up in that weird question of like, if you own your content and you don't want your kids to see the boobies or whatever, you can filter that out. And plus also on the great list of people, you want to piss off, we'll say Christian families who want to watch Game of Thrones without, quite so much graphic violence. I mean, is that really who you want to, is that the hill you want to die on as a judge or a lawyer? I don't know. We got an email from Steven. Says, check this one out. They're offering me cable for $10 a month. Last one was for $30 with HBO and Showtime. The next one will probably be for free. They won't get me. Gladly, my wife Teresa agrees. Let me tell you, Steven, it would be totally fine if you did, as long as you're watching what you want, when you want, on whatever device you please. But I will say, yeah, man, they're getting a little bit desperate, a little bit cheap.
Wait, put that back up, Bryce, for a second, because I want to read it. $10 per month for the first year, not including taxes, equipment, broadcast, and other surcharges.
I'm sure. I mean, how much could that be, Tom? Really?
I mean, yeah, it can't be more than $20-$30, right?
40, 50, 60, 70, 80.
And I couldn't tell from that snippet that he sent us what channels they're offering at $10 a month. But yeah, they are really slashing prices. Everything must go. Jay wrote us and said, Dear Cordkillers, as one of your bosses, I wanted to point out something interesting in numbers that recently came out about TV viewing. 1,004 hours were spent watching live TV, up from 936 hours a year ago, and time spent watching programs on DVRs up to 15 days after they originally aired rose to 356 hours from 332 hours. Among millennials, time spent viewing live TV has been eclipsed by use of desktop computers and phones. Live TV still accounts for 47% of time spent. He is quoting these numbers from ComScore RentTrack, which he points out uses electronic devices to register TV viewing in all their markets, not just the top 50 or so. RentTrack uses equipment like cable boxes and other electronic means to get their numbers. I looked up this report after Jay sent us this email. ComScore says the largest digital media properties can reach as big an audience as the big four broadcasters in prime time. So, for instance, Google reaches 247 million people a month compared to 228 million for the top broadcast network. The TV landscape continuing to shift time and space, more delayed on-demand and digital viewing of TV programming than ever before. And digital media usage continued to grow at a fast rate driven by smartphone apps, inching closer to 50% of all digital media consumed. But here is the best part. From a Fortune article, I found this quote. The competitive pressure on Nielsen also got ratcheted up when two of its competitions in the measurement space, RentTrack and ComScore, merged in a $770 million deal that was announced last year and closed in February. RentTrack already has deals with a number of cable and satellite companies, and this article is in reference to Nielsen striking a deal with Dish to get access to Dish's set-top box data. So the competition in measuring you is heating up.
Well, which makes sense. I mean, that's good. That's like we want fidelity, right? We want accurate metrics so that good programming decisions are made. Richard sent us a nice long email, and I just hit a button where I can't see it. So maybe you could read it, Tom.
He says, I think that there are many ways to kill the cord, and it seems your show dismisses physical media and TV antenna viewing when you should be embracing both. Old technologies as another way to kill the cord, unless you consider the cord from my antenna to my TV, the cord to my Blu-ray player to be the enemy also.
Well, and understand, yes, the show is called Cordkillers, but the subtitle is not "We hate cable and we love tuners." The subtitle is "Watch what you want when you watch on whatever damn device you please." Me personally, hate physical media with a passion. Hate over-the-air tuners and moving rabbit ears to try to get signals and all that stuff. But that's me, bro. That's not you. Like, I would much rather do a DRM licensed content in order to be able to watch it on a thing at a time.
Yeah, I guess you are the one Richard's talking about regarding antennas, because I talk about antennas quite a bit. I mean, we haven't talked about actual antenna products in a while.
Not enough. More antennas.
Or Mohu. I have both, and they both work great, and I use them, and I talk about my over-the-air TiVo all the time. So I'm cool with the antenna. Not everybody is, because not everybody lives in a place that gets good reception. That is a big part of this. Physical media is just clunky. I mean, unless you're using Plex or something and you ripped it all to a hard drive, I find it clunky, but that's just me.
But then again, we've talked before about the ongoing battle between convenience versus fidelity. I would rather have the convenience than the fidelity. I know there are people tearing their hair out right now, how they love their Blu-rays, looking for the next kind of, hard drive-based media to get their 4K HDR content and so on. Yes, all of that. It's a wide map, a patchwork of all types and varieties watching this show.
Christina, when did you start hating antennas and Blu-rays?
So this is the sad thing, right? So like I've spent collectively over, the last 15 years, probably $35,000 on optical media, and I still have them all, but I'm slowly but surely ripping them all or downloading them or rebuying them because it's annoying. So it's been a more recent thing, although I still dream of like just hiring somebody from TaskRabbit to rip everything to my Synology box so that I can have it all through my NAS. Antennas, yeah, I subscribe to cable mostly just because it's easier, but I also subscribe to a lot of the other services, and frankly, if I was better with my money, I probably probably would cancel the cable subscription. But antennas are just clunky, and depending on where you live, it's hard to get a good resolution. I mean, it's great if you can have a silicon dust like box or something to be able to stream that stuff. But ideally, services like Aereo were kind of like, we saw the future; it was right there with us, and the Supreme Court disagreed. But wouldn't
it be great?
I'm kind of in between you guys, right? Like I understand the fidelity argument a lot, because for me it's extra features and audio commentaries from my Blu-ray and DVD discs that I really love and like hold on to, but the convenience is just so outmatched when it comes to the streaming stuff.
Wouldn't you love 20 years from now to see a based on a true story movie? It's like Tucker, a man in his car, except it's Chet Kanoja selling the dream of Aereo to everyone.
Completely.
We had it!
We were so
right
close.
Yeah.
Well, no, what'll happen is in 20 years, his dream will actually become a reality. The networks and the entire industry will finally catch on and agree that, hey, we should be able to get this over IP the same way we could get over antenna. There's no reason why you shouldn't be able to pay a nominal fee to get your local broadcast networks in your web browser.
Well,
it's silly.
We're
not to.
almost there. A PlayStation View has 3 of the 4.
Yeah.
ABC is available on demand on PlayStation View, just not streaming live channels yet. But
yeah, I mean, and ESPN is live on Sling TV, and they're getting there. But yeah, you're right. But we're still not quite there. If you've got a cable login, yours or your friends or your parents or whoever's, then you can access a lot of live content. But it's still not quite that easy. And I can't wait for it to be that easy.
Richard, I will try. I think sometimes I don't talk about antennas as much because I am in a lucky position, and I know it because I've lived other places that weren't this good as far as being able to get over-the-air content. So I don't want to presume that everybody can get over-the-air content the way I can. I will try not to overcorrect for that. Physical media, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like something that as many people are into, but we will try to respect that as well, Richard.
Yeah. If you guys want to write us, hit us up at cordkillers@gmail.com. We are live when, Tom?
If I remember right, it's right now. Yes, it is. It is, in fact, right now, which right now is 5:10 p.m. Pacific, but it starts at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on diamondclub.tv every Monday. Christina Warren, thank you so much for joining us. This was fantastic.
This was so fun. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, this was really fun. Where can people find more of you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm film_girl on the Twitters. And you can find my writing at mashable.com.
By the way, for the record, what is that piece of art that looks like a representation of the ending of Fight Club at the top in your background?
That is a piece of art that is the representation of the ending of Fight Club.
Nailed it.
Yeah,
you will not squeeze a Fight Club reference past this man.
Yeah.
I actually have Fight Club soap.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Nicely done.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time.
Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
let's go.
It's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.